Now, answering your questions about the law and legal issues. This is Legal Break with attorney Gary Bruce.
Gary, hello there. Good to see you today.
Good morning. Another week here. I promise I'm coming to the studio.
We're going to hold you to it.
I really just got to get out of this office.
We're going to hold you to it. All right, so we do have a question today. Let's pop that one up. Here we go. When is an employer responsible for the actions of an employee?
Yeah, good question. That comes up a lot, you know, and so the answer is whenever they're doing the business of the employer. It also, strangely, I mean, you don't really think about this, but if you're running an errand for your parent, they may be responsible for what you're doing. Or if you're running an errand for a family member or friend, you could be their employee, so to speak, or a family purpose doctrine is what we call that in Georgia. So if you're on a family purpose, the family may be responsible for what you do. And it's the same with an employee-employer relationship. If you're advancing the work of the business or the agency or the government even, then your employer will be responsible for what you did in the advancing of that purpose.
So if there's a lawsuit, could both people, I guess an employer and employee, be named in a lawsuit?
Yes, and they usually are, because the facts, there's always some, well, not always, but there's sometimes some dispute about whether the employee was on their own lark or doing their own thing, or whether they were actually doing the work of the employer. So that sometimes comes up. So all those facts have to get kind of, you know, established and admitted and figured out before things are changed. Sometimes, you know, once a lawsuit is filed and we hear and know what the employer says and what the employee says, there's really no dispute about respondeat superior or the master-servant relationship, then, you know, a lot of times the employee is let out. And now the interesting question about all that becomes this: when does your personal policy apply? When do you need to let your own personal insurance know about it if you're an employee? You know, is your employer's coverage going to cover you if you're running an errand for your employer? Those are interesting questions. And you have to buy that as a separate coverage as a business to cover non-owned vehicles. So if you're working for somebody, you might want to talk to them, because some policies say we will not cover you in a work situation. And so you need to make sure your employer has coverage for you if you're out there doing their bidding. So a lot of issues with that, and it's common, but it's a good question.
It is.
Good area.
It is great. Thank you so very much for answering that today, Gary, and we'll see you on the very next Legal Break.